What would happen if the largest volcano erupted under the ocean? At least 80% of all volcanic eruptions take place underwater. What's more, submarine volcanoes alone will spit out more than 75% of the world's magma. There are over 1 million underwater volcanoes on our planet, and at least 75,000 of them rise above the seabed by more than half a mile. But, as you may guess, it's very hard to explore and examine these underwater monsters. No wonder scientists almost missed the largest underwater volcano eruption of our time. A Kiwi passenger was flying back home after having an amazing vacation in Samoa when something strange attracted her attention. That's when the plane was several hundred miles away from the coast of New Zealand, and from her window seat, the traveler saw an unusual large mass floating on the ocean's surface. He took a photo, and after returning home, she sent this picture to researchers. It turned out that the mass was a huge raft of pumice rocks, some of them as big as a car. This moving carpet, which spread for a whopping 150 square miles, was the result of the greatest submarine eruption in modern history. Even more, several months later, satellites spotted that the pumice rock raft had already spread over an area the size of 2 New Zealands. Haversea Mount volcano, which erupted in 2012 on July 18, lies between American Samoa and New Zealand in the southwest Pacific Ocean. 3 years after this eruption took place, scientists packed into 2 autonomous underwater submarines and headed to explore the area. At that time, they already knew that there had been a massive eruption comparable to the largest land eruptions of the 20th century. In any case, researchers expected to discover some evidence of a common deep-sea eruption, but they were in for quite a surprise. To their endless amazement, scientists didn't find a typical underwater volcano eruptive pattern, but what they discovered happened to be so much more unexpected. The seafloor, miles away from the volcano, was littered with giant pumice blocks, and some of them were the size of a van. Scientists admitted later that they had never seen anything like that before. At first, those who were inside the submarines even thought that something was terribly wrong with their imaging systems. Underwater volcanoes are usually gentle giants that don't really bother us too much. When they erupt, they can easily go unnoticed due to their distant location. When the time comes, the pressure sends the whole top of the volcano off, and the magma gets thrown high up with an incredible force. The amount of red-hot magma is so huge that it boils millions of gallons of water in a matter of minutes. As a result, the region around the erupting volcano turns into a rolling cauldron of water which then floats up to the surface. If you were somewhere around at that moment, you would see the ocean start to bubble furiously, and you'd smell the terrible stench of sulfur. This ominous cloud of boiling water would destroy all the plants and marine animals caught near the eruption, and later, these remains would rise to the surface to add to the mystery of the bubbles and smell. But it turned out that the Havre volcano eruption was quite an unusual one. You will already know that volcanoes experience constant pressure from the inside. So remove at least one outer protective layer, and you have a huge powder drum that could erupt at any moment. However, volcanoes like Mount Fuji would cause much more trouble. Such volcanoes would produce so much ash that it would darken the sky for weeks and months and would even trigger a long and freezing volcanic winter. Since ash is 5 times denser than water, most buildings are simply not designed to withstand tons of it on their roofs. When stratovolcanoes like this begin to erupt, they will send huge lava eruptions into the air, and lava would also flow down the slopes at unprecedented speeds. By the end of the eruptions, the world would be encompassed by a volcanic winter, and the concept of seasons would become outdated. Huge unstable carbon reservoirs in the oceans would become liquid and would be turned into methane and carbon dioxide by microbes. These two greenhouse gases would get into the atmosphere and dramatically accelerate global warming. It would create a never-ending vicious circle. A warmer climate would cause more gases to enter the atmosphere, which would, in turn, just warm the climate even more. Eventually, the climate would get so incredibly hot that all the trees and plants would cease to exist, all the oceans would boil away, and Earth would turn into a Venus-like place. Well, for now, you can relax, as this scenario is highly unlikely to ever occur.